So I have seen the look in your eye that I saw on Sunday a bunch of times, but there's something different about the last day. Do you feel different about it? Does it have a different kind of thing for you?
Yeah. So like for me, when I get into that mental state where I just have like the eye of the tiger kind of thing, it's like I basically have set my mind to do something, and I do everything in my willpower to make that happen. And so it's just manifestation of me wanting to win so bad that I need to make every shot happen, and whether it's a clutch drive at the right moment or a clutch putt at the right moment, I feel like I can see certain moments in tournaments where there are turning points, and I feel like when I'm in contention and I'm really have a chance to win, I take advantage of those moments.
So like hole 1, you step up and throw a drive that you probably weren't super happy with. When you knelt down for that putt on 1, final day, obviously you could tell that the tournament meant something to you. Is there stuff that's going on in your mind at that moment, or is it almost a different kind of flow state where you're like, I have to make this putt. There's no use in even thinking about it. I'm just going to make it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm trying to make the putt, and I'm going through my routine and everything. But then once I threw it up and saw it go in, that's when the momentum hit me. Like, hey, I'm going to win this thing. And so it just kind of started off the round and got me some momentum started early, and then I rattled off 3 in a row. Because I'm a big emotional player, and I play with emotion on my sleeve. And I think that I feed off the crowd. I give the crowd something to cheer about, and then I feed off of that, and I let it snowball in a good way where I make that one good shot happens, and then I get on a roll where I have another good shot, another good putt. And so I think I feel like I'm the type of player that gets the crowd involved, and I play really well with crowds. And when they're supporting me like that, it was just unmatched feeling that I just am so thankful for.
Yeah, it was really cool on Sunday. Obviously, a much smaller crowd than a place like USDGC or Worlds or something, but it's very obvious just watching it that you're trying to get the crowd involved in it, and it's not in like a cheesy way. It's like I need your energy in order to do what I'm trying to do right now.
Exactly, yeah. So I think that, and I've talked to people about it before, is there's certain players that play with more emotion than others, and then I feel like, and that's another reason why I feel like when I get in contention, I'm on lead card, I play so well.
For sure.
I think that's part of the equation, and it helps me kind of get that focus. And I'm craving that shot to get the crowd pumped up and get the crowd behind me. So that I know that when I make that shot, it gets that momentum, and that's what kind of sparks me into playing really good rounds when I need to.
Nevin is such a hard course, and so different from USDGC. Obviously, USDGC has lots of out of bounds and stuff like that that's manufactured. This is, if you hit an initial tree in the first 100 feet of the flight of a drive, you're screwed. So there's no margin for error. What's that like, playing in the woods like that?
It's very tough. You as a player, you're very aware of the fact that if you hit a tree, you could bounce into a spot where you're basically scrambling for a bogey, and you'll be happy with a bogey. There's definitely spots out there that you can get a bogey or double bogey real quick, as you saw with a lot of players. I had more than a handful of double bogeys this week throughout my 4 rounds, and that's kind of just how Nevin is. It's then you add the pressure and you add the nerves, and some of those gaps start to shrink up a little bit and look a little smaller than they did in practice. And so it's kind of how you handle that. And obviously, me being the player I am, I've been in situations where I have certain strategies mentally that I use to lock in and try to focus and focus on the moment.
Because I've seen younger players or people that are not quite as experienced that playing with emotion can be a double-edged sword, because if you get super keyed up and you're super stoked about getting 3 in a row off the bat, and then you get a double bogey somewhere, sometimes that emotion turns the other way, and it's like it can be toxic for people. You can watch them kind of melt down. So I can't remember what hole it is because all the holes are different for the Pro Tour layout versus Nevin as I know it. But the one that they made into the par 5 that now goes across the creek, I think that one was the one blow-up hole from your final round, right?
Yep.
So walk me through that hole, and what are you thinking in that moment? Because up until then, you're just playing clean and like super on fire.
Yeah, I started off really well. I think I was like 3 down through 5, saving some good par saves, which is important out there because you're gonna get out of position and you're gonna need to save par sometimes. And I was able to do that. And that hole, I went my second shot. I threw a good drive, and my second shot went a little bit early left, and I was in a certain spot on the fairway where you're basically you're completely blocked out by trees. There's no angle to the basket. And on top of that, you're throwing over OB as well. So you're basically having to poke and hope through a bunch of trees. And if you hit something, you could potentially go out of bounds. And that's what happened to me. And I didn't even throw a bad shot. I hit the gap I was trying to. And yeah, there was a limb up there that I didn't quite see. Hit the limb. And next thing you know, I'm taking a double bogey on a shot that I actually felt comfortable with and that I threw it really well. And so that's kind of how it is out there. You know, good shots don't always get rewarded, and bad shots don't always get punished. So it can work both ways. And so I think that's kind of what happened. I threw a good shot, definitely a good enough shot to get up and down for a par, and I hit a random limb and dropped out of bounds. That's the difference between a par and a double bogey out there is an inch.
For sure. So when that happens, I think at that point you had a 3-stroke lead. It immediately evaporates into 1 stroke. It's like, okay, now it's anybody's game. Are you going internal and just trying to stay calm? What's the feeling inside when something like that happens?
Yeah, it's definitely stay calm. I mean, it's trying to change your perspective. Like, hey, all right, you know, I'm still in the hunt. I'm still technically leading. I'm tied with Kyle at this point, and so trying to change the perspective. Yeah, there was, you know, a point of about 5 or 10, 15 minutes that I was very upset and let it affect me for a couple shots. But even when I'm upset and I play mad, I can still a lot of times fight through that and hopefully not let it, you know, linger more than it needs to. That it'll start affecting me in a negative way. Yeah, so I was able to you know, the next hole I actually bogeyed the next hole right after it, and that was just because I threw a bad shot. I don't think it was really because of my mind frame, my mindset. It was just I messed up. My forehand did a couple mechanics wrong, and I threw a bad shot. But I knew that you know, that stuff's gonna happen out at Nevin. You know, it's gonna happen to Kyle. It's gonna happen to me. It's gonna, you know, that stuff can happen to anybody.
Yeah, everybody's playing the same course.
Yeah, and of course, you know, you want to, you know, at our level, you're wanting to hit those gaps and give yourself birdie chances. And if, you know, you're gonna have to, if you want to win, you gotta hit those gaps. And so it's very frustrating when you don't, because we practice enough and we're good enough players to where we should hit them most of the time. And it's just like I said, that the best players determine based on how they handle adversity, whether it's good and they're throwing a lot of, you know, 4 or 5 birdies in a row. How can you handle that 6th hole? Or if it's, hey, if you had 3 bad holes or 2 bad holes in a row, how do you bounce back on the 3rd or 4th hole? And that's kind of what determines a champion.
Well, it was really fun to watch, and I got to see it a little bit of final round of USDGC. I saw that kind of spark where you realized, I've got to birdie pretty much everything. I've got to have the round of my life. And so those first 4 or 5 holes was electric, you know, and then whatever happened the rest of the round. But it was inspiring to watch how intense you were about it. And there's a difference between, you know, somebody like you that's been around as long as you have versus somebody that, I don't know if you've seen it playing other sports, where there are people that get super overhyped early in a game, and the best players on the court are just watching them go like, okay, just give it some time, watch what happens, and you're, you know, that ends up fizzling out. But it was really inspiring on Sunday to watch that sustain, and, you know, even with a couple of bad breaks, a couple of bad holes, you were still able to kind of keep that edge. And I don't know, I just think it's mark of like a true athlete. And it's nothing bad against disc golf, but there's not a ton of like true athlete, real competitors in disc golf. And so it is, it's really cool to watch. One of the coolest things for me was my son and I, Zeke, who's 7, we walked the final round for, I think we were only able to be there for half of it. But we walked with your mom and dad and brother and girlfriend. And, after every shot, I'm watching with my son, after every shot, your dad's going, good shot, Rick, good up and down, good putt, whatever. And I noticed you looking back at him a couple of times. Is that cool having your dad there? Like, is that a factor?
Yeah, it is really cool. It's not like a NFL team where you get to go to the, home game is, at the same spot every Sunday. That's not like that. So to have a hometown tournament like this it means a lot to have my girlfriend, my mom, my brother, my dad, everybody there all together watching and supporting me. And so, yeah, I definitely, it's just look back and get that comforting feeling that they're out there supporting me. And it just, it helps spark me that little bit more. And so just all that little stuff adds up, the extra cheers from the crowd, the support that they were just showing me, just smiling after a good shot, my dad fist bumping me and coming over and saying, yeah, you got it after a bad hole, just that positive reinforcement. All that helps the mindset to be where I need to be to perform.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was really special to me. I'm becoming more sappy as becoming a dad and just having those experiences with Zeke. On Saturday, I'm watching him play flag football and rooting for him, and then on Sunday watching your dad and seeing it through his eyes, just how proud he was, like looking over at your mom being like, I don't think he's out of bounds, like getting like really relieved when you made a putt, all that kind of stuff. It was really sweet to watch.
Right on. That is cool.
You and I talked about this when we filmed the round together earlier in the week. Different things motivate people differently. Like, obviously, $40,000 is a great check in disc golf, but that means something different to you than it does to, a younger player, somebody that doesn't have the contract you do. But is that a factor going into it? Like, are you thinking about that? Like, I know that's kind of a weird question because money's a weird thing to talk about, but is that a motivating thing, or is it just, I want to put on for the crowd and I want to make this, a big moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously the $40,000 is the biggest payout in disc golf history, right? I mean, for first place. I
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that the $40,000 being the biggest payout, that's going to be on my mind, and that's something I want to set a legacy and be the one to win that payout and get that win. And so the money is definitely part of it, but the other part of it is I'm a competitor. I love just getting myself in contention and seeing how I handle the pressure and seeing how I can, feel certain moments in tournaments and say, all right, this is the moment where I need to make a shot happen if I want to win this thing. And so that's where the emotions come in, is like I get this rush of like adrenaline, and I can feel this is a big moment, a big turning point in the event.
Yeah.
And so that's when I feel like those putts or those clutch drives, I can feel that everything, the tournament kind of boiling to a head. Obviously, you could say every shot's important in the final round, but there's always those 3 or 4 or 5 shots down the stretch, whether it's on hole 9 or hole 18, whatever it may be, that kind of change the momentum of the round.
Sure.
In your favor or against you, in your competitor's favor. So I live for those moments, and I love being able to put myself in contention and just seeing how I handle it. And I think that for me, having been in a lot of these spots before, I'm able to handle the adversity, handle the nerves, handle the pressure, and everything that comes my way in a great way. And I harness it through the emotion when I'm able to make that clutch putt, and I can really feel that moment in the tournament, and I know how big of a moment that is for me to be able to win. And I think that that's kind of what happened on hole 16, is I knew that, hey, going into 17, having 2 strokes is a humongous difference.
Yeah.
On paper, it doesn't sound like it, but just the way hole 17 and 18 play out, you got to look ahead and say, yeah, there's lots of out of bounds, a tight gap on 17 with lots of nerves, lots of pressure. Me or Kyle both could miss the gap. And like I said, completely different if that was to happen. So just the fact that I was able to clutch up, hit that putt, and just realize that moment was meant so much. And coming back to look at it, that was the moment. I ended up winning by 1 stroke. So I think for me, it's being able to tell and be able to, my experience comes through when I'm able to feel the moments, and when the tournament's flipping toward, in my direction, where I can kind of have a chance to take some momentum and give myself a really good chance to win with a certain shot. And hole 16 was that shot this week.
Thank you, buddy. And whenever you get back in town for Sarah and Yuli's wedding, we'll have to do something. Although I'll tell you this, play some disc golf, sure, but I've heard that I need to play you in ping pong.
Oh, you're a ping ponger, huh?
Yeah, I beat Germ. I mean, I beat him a lot because he's not really good. But I've been told that you're pretty serious on the ping pong table. So that's
dude. We should play. That'd be awesome. We should do a ping pong battle. Do a video.
I'm in. All right, buddy. Well,
that'd be fun.
Be safe driving. We'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, buddy. We'll talk soon, Joseph. See you, bud.
Okay, peace.